Good morning. This is Tyra Olafemi, your goddess guru, here to share a word of inspiration to assist you on your path to self-realization, full enlightenment, and self-mastery. You know, a lot of us think we've come here to do something, but more than that, we come here to be the truth of who and what we are. So much of what life is about is the self-realization process. The experiences that we have in life, they are serving the purpose of assisting us with figuring out who we are so we can be that. And once we are being the truth of the truth of who and what we are, which is divine, which is whole, which is positive, warmth, love, light, just all when we think of the divine, when we think of God, Goddess, Father, Mother God energy, all the qualities that we think of the great divine. There's so many say, yes, this is true. There's some being greater than us. Well, we have those same qualities within us. And when we live those qualities and are those qualities, that's how we live them. We step into being those qualities. You can't help but do good things. When you're being who you really are, you cannot help but do what you were born to do, which is to use your gifts and talents. But do you know what all of your gifts and talents are? Or is your ego covering all of that up? That's the thing that I want to talk to you about today, the ego. The ego is a construct. Now, all of us come here into the physical reality with an ego. The question is, how is the ego constructed? We have to have a persona in order to be in the physical realm. You can't just... We have spirits that are walking here, but they're not able to experience the physical realm like we can when we have a body. And so we have to have a persona. We have to have a personality. We have to have an ego. So part of understanding who we are, realizing who you are, is to understand all these different levels of your identity. Many of us believe that we are this. We are our ego. We are our personality. And it's not a bad thing to think that. It's largely due to miseducation. We've not been properly educated on the fact that there is this part of us that is physical. But this part is more of like a suit. It's more like clothing that you have to have in order to have a physical experience. So it is a part of your identity, but a very small part of your identity. And so because we are not properly educated on we're not our ego, we begin to construct this ego. Now, most of the time we don't know we're constructing it, okay? And when I'm talking ego, I'm not talking about arrogance. I'm talking about an aspect of self, an aspect that all of us have because we have a body. And so life constructs ego. If you're born into a family that teaches you you're good, your ego is going to begin to construct in a way where you predominantly feel good about who you are. If you are born into a family that says you are bad, your ego may choose to construct in a way that you feel bad. I mean, that's just, you've accepted I am bad as a part of my identity, or I am good as a part of my identity. And so we just begin to construct that things happen. People tell us things about ourselves. Experiences will happen either to us or we'll witness the experience. We'll draw a conclusion. And then it becomes a part of who we think we are. So what we want to do is we want to have what is called healthy ego development. This is one of the reasons why people say love a child. If we don't tell a child so much about who they are, especially if we don't really know if what we think about that child is our opinion, which we don't need to put our opinions on children. We need to really see with wise spiritual eyes who a child is before we tell them. In many, many traditional cultures, and I've learned this about African cultures and just cultures that are very connected to the land, especially the more ancient ones. Children, there was divination that was done. And what divination is accessing the higher wisdom bank. See, we have such limited understanding when we're just understanding the world and life from our ego, our human self. And so we can develop the wisdom within us and know, just really hear from spirit, however you describe that inner knowingness, that inner voice, that inner guide within you. We can eventually get there. For some people, it's very easy. For other people, they have to work to develop it a lot. But some of the time, let me not say most of the time, some of the time, it is good to consult the wise beings. People were put here specifically to be able to access the higher wisdom bank and provide guidance, a roadmap for those who are needing help because they can't hear the wisdom yet for themselves. And so what would happen is people would go and take their baby, or before they had the baby, and they would go to the wise elder in the village, whoever he or she was, and ask, tell me about, why is this baby here? Divination was done, and it was said that the baby is here for this, or for this reason. These are the challenges this child may face. This is the work this child is to do. So we need to make sure that a life is created so this child can develop these gifts and talents so they can do their work. All kinds of things like that were told and given to the parents and the family for this child so that they can help the child have healthy ego development. Well, we don't get that nowadays. Some of us do, but a large majority of us have no idea how to help a child develop a healthy ego. And so many of us who are now grown-up children, we have an ego that is not serving us in a way that helps us. Our ego can be a blockage. Let me say it that way. And again, I'm not talking about arrogance, because some people with egos, the worst egos, have the worst self-esteem. I would be one of those people whose ego has had issues with arrogance. But when I'm going ego, I'm depressed. I'm sad. Oh, God. I've been working to get out of it, so I can't stand being that way now. But anyway, I'm talking about the construct, and it's built like creating a building, brick by brick. This is who I am. This is what I know about myself. And you just create this ego. And so what we have to do is we have to deconstruct the ego and nurture our ego in a way so that we now realize that the ego is a tool that allows us to have experience and express other aspects of ourselves, our divine nature. Our emotions are a part of us, our mind, our mental capacities. Those are levels of who and what we are. And so when they're being developed in a healthy manner, you just have one experience. It's not necessarily the easiest experience, but it tends to land you results that you desire. And so that's what we want our ego to do, is to express itself, not as the primary identity, but understanding that it has its part in our life, but we have this greater aspect of ourselves that we can't see, but is there and so wonderful. It's the greater part of ourselves, the greatest part of ourselves is so expansive and vast that you never can get to the end of that part of you. You know, many will say, I'm a soul, I'm a spirit in a body. Then if that's the case, where does a soul end and where does it begin? So that's the part of us that we want because it is undifferentiated. It is not, it doesn't think like a human brain thinks, or it's not limited. It's unlimited in the way that it expresses itself. It can do anything. And so that part of ourselves wants to be the primary part that's leading, guiding, and directing. So when we are in a place where we are saying, I am tired of my ego running the show, I now want to allow the ego to fall to the back. All its behaviors, all its limited thoughts, all of the wrong thinking, anything that is a part of my ego that is preventing me from being fully who and what I am. I'm letting all of that go. When we begin to do that, we will feel a little unstable. That's what I want you to know. Stop picking up the things that feed your ego, because the ego is like a living entity after a while. I remember really kind of sort of getting ego when I read A Course in Miracles. Now, I didn't finish it, all right? No, don't let me lie. But I did read enough of it to finally get what I needed to help me really understand how my ego was working and what I needed to do in order to get my ego to work in harmony with all of me. So the ego really and truly is the weakest part of you. It is the most fleeting part of you. It is the most powerless part of you. You know, you'll hear people say, I can't do anything without God. What I hear now when I hear that is there is the ego and then there is my divine self, which is ever presently connected to the divine. I asked earlier, where does the soul end? It doesn't end because we're always connected to the one divine presence. If we think about the word omnipresence, God is everywhere. How can we not be a part of the great divine every moment? Do we see it? Are we aware that we are part of the divine? That makes people think if you can't see it, you're not aware, you think God is out there. God is not out there. We're all immersed in God consciousness. And so with the ego, it is powerful when we allow the larger part of ourselves, the expansive soul spirit part of ourselves. I like using the word consciousness, part of ourselves, to drive the ego. That's where the ego gets power from. That's what when we say, I have no power. We have all the power within us. It's our ego that we need to get to understand. We allow the power to flow through the ego. And so the way the ego stays in control, the way a person who is not yet aware of, or not fully aware, not learning how to experience the larger part of themselves, the all-powerful aspect of themselves, the way that ego stays in control is it has to be fed certain things. For some people, it's anger. For some people, it's depression. For some people, they have to be the center of attention. Now, this is when we start really seeing behavior where we think this person is on my last nerve. When we see that, we need to have compassion for that person, even though we can jack them up. All right, we can let them know that's not acceptable. You know, I don't have to baby you to have compassion. I just don't have to think negative things about you. I can think, you know what, this person really and truly, they are more in touch with their ego than they are with their beautiful, wonderful, higher selves. And so I'm not going to And I have no patience for that kind of behavior. If it's unacceptable, I'm gonna say something if I feel so moved. But I can still love that person and hope and pray for that person that they will move to a place sooner than later where they can walk in peace. And to even draw that judgment, a lot of times I don't draw that judgment. It's really more of I just see it and I just move on. That I really hate judging people, and because when I judge, I tend to get judged. And when I get judged, oftentimes after I've judged someone else and it's boomeranging back to me, doing to others what it gets done to me, whatever someone has judged me on is true. So it's like I can't even deny it. I'm just saying, when we see these behaviors, a lot of times it is a person who doesn't know the fullness of who and what they are. And their ego must be fed. We all have these aspects of ourselves. You just kind of have to figure out. One of the ways that you know is what's feeding your ego is it's a problem behavior. It's a problem thought. It's something that you think, I really need to do something. When I think of drug addicts, not drug addicts. When I think of addicts, let me tell you, we are all the same. Food addiction, I've been there. It's terrible. It's terrible. But I tell you what, it's no better, no worse than any other addiction. Whatever your addiction is, I am telling you right now, you have that addiction because your ego is what is the primary part of yourself. That's why the 12-step process, when people really look at it, it works. Because you have to turn yourself over to a higher power. What is that higher power? Whatever it is for you. But the bottom line is we know there's something greater to us, to the universe. You turn yourself over to that higher power, your ego cannot win. But it's lack of healthy ego development. It is not knowing who you are that has you caught up in your addiction. Whatever it is that you have going on that is feeding your ego, when you decide to let it go, and this is, I didn't know I was going to say all this today, but this is my primary point. When you decide to let it go, you will feel off center. Don't go pick it back up. You're being given an opportunity to examine the lie, the miseducation that you have received that allowed you to get caught up in a negative thought pattern or behavior or whatever it is, this blockage that you have going on with you. And so you got to let it go. You've got to address it. And you've got to replace it with truth, whatever that is. But your ego will want you to pick it back up because the ego is an aspect that it thrives and it will seek to stay alive. But once you help the ego side of yourself understand that it has a purpose, and its purpose is to be a vehicle of self-expression of the larger aspects of ourselves, your ego will comply. It has no choice. It's the most powerless part of you. Get in touch with your beautiful, wonderful, expansive higher self. If what I'm saying doesn't make sense, it's okay. I tell people all the time, just because you don't understand it today doesn't mean you won't get it later. But I'll never forget hearing, and I don't even watch the show anymore, Dr. Phil say this on TV one day. You know what you have. How's it working for you? How is your present state of operating in your life working for you? If it's working for you, good. If it's not working for you, listen to what I've said today and try to apply something. And just remember, when you decide to make a change, oftentimes this is when you will feel the most off center. It seems like the world will go totally crappy. Everything that could go wrong goes wrong. But it is, you start letting go of that. I call that behavior a crutch. You let go of it And so you let go of it. What was I going to say? I lost my thought. You let go of the crutch, and what begins to happen is you have to learn how to just stand without it. Everything that happens that just seems like it's going awry is happening so that you can never pick that crutch up again. The crutch was preventing you from dealing with it. So put the crutch down. Let's do some therapy and work that part of you out, baby. Okay? To make you strong in your spirit, strong in your body, your mind, and your spirit. All right? That's what I have for you today. I hope that you have a wonderful day and that I've said something that will assist you. And please, I just want to thank everybody for watching the videos that I have made. I really appreciate it when I get all the comments about how the videos are helping them, because that's why I make these videos. I like to share what comes to me, and I think, you know what? I'm glad I learned this for myself. Maybe it'll help someone else. So it is my pleasure to share just this wisdom that comes through me. So y'all have a good day. Thank you again. Peace and love.